So now I am going to go ahead and introduce our final speaker, Humaira. So Humaira is the founder and CEO of Locelle Digital, and Locelle is a global private platform created for women in the workplace based in British Columbia. Locelle delivers personal and professional growth to our community through relevant, meaningful connections and professional development opportunities. And with that, I will give the mic to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's been such a great evening just listening to incredible speakers with their personal stories and professional journeys. And I feel so energized and just happy to be an entrepreneur. So I don't necessarily have a presentation, but I thought I would share my journey as an entrepreneur, but also along the way, the lessons that I've learned and one of the key takeaways that I've had that I would love to share with you. So I was born and raised in Pakistan, in Karachi, Pakistan. My family decided to move when I was 20. And in case you're wondering, I'm 36 today, so it's been 16 years. My family moved, and at the time I was doing software engineering. I had the highest GPA. It's pretty stereotypical for there, but it's as a woman, you are celebrated if you are in certain professions. So engineering, science, lawyer, and all those professions that traditionally male-dominated industries. So I was good at math, and that's why I ended up in software engineering. So I had completed 2 years. My family moved to Canada, and that's when I actually I got into York University in their software engineering program. And I learned that because I was in third year, because all my credits were transferred, I was either one of the few women in a class of 160 or sometimes the only one. And that to me was a bit of a shocker. It was a bit of a shocker, not just that there aren't enough women in engineering, but also because coming from a different country and third world country, to be exact, there were more women in engineering there. We were like 40 to 60% at any given time. And I tried, to be in different classes. And ultimately, I made the decision to quit or drop out of that because I just thought, okay, first of all, I don't feel like I belong here. Two, it's a new country. There's already so many barriers. Just not being able to speak English as fluently as I do today. Not being able to know how to communicate effectively. So, however, I moved into communication studies. There were a lot of women in that program, and that's where I found my home. And actually, it was a great decision at the time because all of my journey, my professional career here in Canada, it's all the successes I've had is as a direct result of me being in communications. So. Long story short, I was in Toronto, moved to BC, married, my husband, and we started a family. I live on Vancouver Island, and I was an entrepreneur. I believe I'm just meant to be an entrepreneur. I never found, that kind of not success, but not that, contentment when I work for others. I just love taking initiatives, just following through, getting things done. In the corporate world, it was a lot slower for my liking. So I set up my marketing company and, did that for at least 7 years on Vancouver Island. There just weren't enough marketing jobs anyway. And then I had my daughters. Which leads me to this topic of being a parent-preneur, parent-entrepreneur. So I had 2 girls. They're now 5 and 7. By the way, we achieved this amazing milestone this year with both the kids going to school, just one drop-off, one pickup. And for those of you who are parents, you probably can relate and resonate. That is a huge milestone. So with that said, when my girls were little, I had those feelings of isolation again. And I just felt like, I wanted to do more. I wanted that community. I wanted to connect with more women in technology industry. And there just wasn't an easier way. So I started my company. And you can read up about my company. I'm not going to talk much about that. I really want to share with you today, some of the key lessons I've learned and why I believe. So this is kind of my thesis for today. Why I believe that parents are perfect candidates for entrepreneurship. For the longest time, I would hear things like, okay, well, there's the, 20, is it 30 under 30 and 40 under 40. And a lot of times, venture capital is for younger people. But I believe obviously I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years now. And I find that we are just made for this. Like if we want to pursue our dreams, we can be amazing at entrepreneurship. So I want to share a couple of stories with regards to that. And so the one big lesson I have learned is being a parent entrepreneur. One thing we can teach our kids is how to navigate that fear of failure. But more than that, not just being able to navigate it, but also like how does persistence and progress is more important than worrying about, oh, what if we fail? So obviously as an entrepreneur, we fail every day, we win every day. And instead of focusing on failures, I have learned to just focus on, okay, how can I make this better? What can I learn from my mistakes or my failures to grow? So what we do in our house with our two kids and my husband is that at dinner table every day, we go around the table and we talk about, what did we fail at today? What mistakes did we make today? And more importantly, how can we improve? How can we make that better? So that's one. And it's so important because what's amazing is as we started this, every day, or the first few times, what I noticed was my girls would talk about small things, like I got 85% on my math test, according to my 7-year-old. And for me, I was like, wow, she thinks that's failure. That's like nothing. That's a win. So I think just being able to just even hear how they see failure, what they see as mistakes. And then we sort of shift that, right? So it's like 85% is not failure. 85% is a win. Sure, it could have been like 100% would be even better, obviously. But just again, instilling that concept of progress and not perfection. So it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. She takes pride in her math, which is fantastic. I think, she wants to be an astronaut and we want her to work on her math too. But it's also about celebrate the 85% and learn why you didn't get that 100% and see if you can work towards that. And if that doesn't happen, that's still okay. It's still a win. And I would ask my 5-year-old, who's so little, and just ask her, what her failures have been. And initially, she would just talk about, okay, I forgot to bring my library book. So to her, that was like a really bad thing. It's not that bad of a thing. So just being able to shift that narrative into, even if, okay, you forgot, what can you do tomorrow? And what I've also noticed over time, now we've been doing it for at least, since the school started in September, we've learned that their narrative has really, really shifted. So what they talk about now as a mistake, like actually yesterday, I asked my 5-year-old, her name is Gia, what did you fail at today? Or what mistake did you make? And she said, I didn't make any mistakes today. So it was amazing. I think it's okay. And I think it's great. So I just think going back to, we worry so much as fear of failure, and I see the confidence really dip from when they're, toddlers to when they're 10 years old. Right. And I believe this is one part of it is how do we navigate failure? How do we let go of that fear of failure, rejection, and really focus on, okay, well, I made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes and it's going to happen. So I do think that as an entrepreneur, as a parent entrepreneur, we have the power and influence to be able to change that narrative around failure. And the second thing that I've also learned is I am a huge believer and an advocate for challenging status quo. I try to challenge status quo every single day, any chance I get. And I think as entrepreneurs, we challenge status quo. So as an example, I'm obviously, I'm a working mom. I work in the tech industry, again, traditionally male dominated. I'm a CEO. I've been at it for a while. Recently, I was on a cover of a magazine, which was such a beautiful surprise, where Vancouver Island celebrated 10 top 10 companies. And they chose for me to be on the cover. And even though it sounds kind of, I was kind of low-key embarrassed. I shouldn't be. I should celebrate that. But it's still kind of, anyway. My daughter picked up the magazine, and she just, obviously she took lots of pictures with it too. She was like, oh my gosh, like, and then she looked at me and she said, Mommy, I want to be like you. And anyway, and that was just so nice to hear, because I know how much guilt we can have as parents who are not as available as we would like to be. But it was a great moment. And in their school, every week they have this show and tell. She's 7, and show and tell is you can bring anything to school and talk about it. She chose to bring the magazine, and because she was so proud, she shared with her class. My mom is a CEO. I don't know how many of you are parents here, but you probably see on Facebook where people share, first day of school, and they'll be holding these, chalkboards. She wrote, I want to be a CEO when I grow up, because she looks at me as her role model. So again, I think we need to challenge status quo. We have this opportunity to challenge status quo. And actually, when she was in kindergarten, we asked her what she wanted to be. And she had, in one of the pictures on my one slide deck, it shows that she wants to be a scientist. So even though, it obviously changes from year to year, it's still ambitious. And it's still, as a girl, like I see, you go to even buying their clothes, it just kind of obviously makes me really upset, because the girls, it's the unicorns and the rainbows and the pink, which is okay, but those things are so unrealistic to achieve in life. Like, you can't get a unicorn, right? And so I think we need to really shift the narrative. And we can, especially when we're entrepreneurs, we can challenge the status quo and show them what's possible. So that's the second thing that I believe, having this opportunity has really helped shape our, at least, our culture here. And I believe that that's how we can start to move the needle for women at work. And the last thing that I want to just share in terms of a lesson that I have found to be so profound is that we also do need to change the face of leadership. Women in leadership, and being that example of we have a team of 5 people, and I, as a parent, sometimes I'll get a call from the school. I need to pick up the kids. Being able to show it's okay to take that time off and not be stressed out. My daughter got sick. I got sick. Took that time, delegate it. So obviously you learn a lot. You need to trust your team, but delegate that. But also show that it's okay to not be at work. And I think, and even as parents, we become so empathetic, so nurturing, so caring. It's just impatient. Somebody had mentioned before, so patient too. And we need to change that face of leadership. Because traditionally, again, it's like, what we typically see of, there's a man CEO in the tech industry. They have either stay-at-home wife or, that extra help, which is really hard to achieve, especially when you come from an immigrant background, especially when you come from, a different culture, especially when you are building, a company in a non-traditional kind of industry. There's so many barriers, but I believe this is where we have the opportunity to change that face of leadership and show empathy, kindness, understanding. And when you become parents, it becomes personal. So that's kind of, I do believe that when you become parents, because you have a lot of those qualities, that is what the future of work needs today. We really need to be able to take care of ourselves, our teams, our kids, and that's how we can really truly grow as a society. And just a quick note on some of the good that I find, and actually there's a lot more good. One is obviously gives me purpose. Because I have 2 daughters, the work that I do today, it is just fueled by having 2 daughters and looking at the society and just thinking we have a lot of work to do to make workplaces better for them than they are for us. Another good thing that I found is that it allows me to be more focused. When you have so many things to balance, obviously I shouldn't say balance, juggle, you really learn where your focus should go. what things are kind of fluff, where you should really spend your time, because I'd rather be spending that time with my kids than to be doing things that don't really bring any value. And then obviously the last part on the good side for me is that I actually started my company because I wanted to create workplaces that are better for the future generation than they are for us today. And then just some challenging parts. I mean, there's obviously a lot of challenges, but I do find that the one big challenge that's a constant in my life, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs, is time. We don't have enough time for things that we want to do for us. Paul, thank you so much. I'm not sure if you're still here, but thank you for sharing your story. That you put a focus on your health and wellness, and that's really helped you. And I believe we do need to spend enough time on us. And then not enough time, to be able to do things that my husband gets to do, where, he takes them swimming, he takes them for walks, he does most of the pickups and drop-offs. But that's okay, because they're loved, they're cared for, and we're, again, changing the face of leadership here. And then lastly, not enough time for sometimes work. I was actually saying to my husband 2 days ago, we're in this like growth phase right now. And I am, I wake up at 7, I do my work, obviously spend some time with kids, and then I take a nap because I am so tired. And then I get up and then, have more coffee, and then I work till late. And I was just saying to him, if we didn't have kids, like, it would be a bit easier, but obviously I'm really happy that we do have kids. And I believe you can have it all, and you've probably heard this before, but, just not at once. And that's okay, and focus on progress, not perfection. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A lot of words of wisdom, quotes of wisdom right there. I love the progress, not perfection. Celebrate that 85%, but also learn from it. And I love that you also incorporate your kids in what you do. You teach them, but you also learn from them. I think that's super important for work-life integration, as was stated earlier. And one thing I also really liked was how you said that parents are perfect candidates for entrepreneurship. And I know that even though they are those perfect candidates, they still won't do anything about it. So what do you think are some common, potential limiting beliefs that you think potential parent-preneurs have? And what advice would you give to them to overcome those limiting beliefs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing is, finances could be one, right? When you do, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, I did not take a salary for 3 years. And this is where I also think, when we think about entrepreneurship, there's so many barriers, whether you're an immigrant, whether language is a barrier, whether, I don't come from a lot of money. So obviously I don't have, the people say typical friends and family round in financial, when you're raising capital. I don't have that, right? So I think the more you, come from underprivileged backgrounds, the more barriers you have. So I'm just definitely going to say that depending on the season of your life, you need to have at least a little bit of buffer, right? So it may be even, and I can't speak for people who, I was lucky that, it's been, I've seen dark days. I've stayed in $50 Airbnbs in the heart of Vancouver. And you can very well imagine what $50 would give you if you're right by SkyTrain, right? It was super shady, super creepy. I barely slept. I actually stayed the entire night at Tim Hortons. I've seen a lot of those days. So you need to be ready for it. And which is why I think a lot of people have here shared that you need to love what you do. It can be glamorized. As long as you love what you do, you'll find a way. But I do think that, just being realistic, and maybe this is not what you wanted to hear, but you need to be realistic about your finances and just just know that depending on the type of company you want, like for me, because it's a tech companies can take a long time to give returns. We're now, break even, and that's amazing. Like, I don't even know how that happened, but really, I think just set aside funds for that. Start a side hustle, right? Like, set up a landing page. Just get started. If it's something you truly believe in, I think now is the time. With so much flexibility, and I hope employers give flexibility to people to dedicate some time on themselves too. So I think definitely finances, and then time, right? Like, if you're a working parent and you have a job, it can be really hard. But set aside some time, do what you love. I'm not sure how helpful this really was, but I will say that just get started, right? Like just do something, get out there, talk to people who have done it before.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, because I think a lot of people will glamorize entrepreneurship, and they don't really see, they see the tip of the iceberg and they don't see the 90% that's covered.
Oh
And
my
so saying
gosh.
things like the finances and all of that, I think, people do have to be realistic, like you said. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
And we have time for one more question here. So I will go ahead and ask that. So I know entrepreneurs, parent entrepreneurs, you'll experience a lot of self-doubt, and I'm sure that you had quite a bit of self-doubt throughout your journey. So what did you do to help overcome that and sort of get past that?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm laughing because every day, okay, like it's every day. It's even today. I think to navigate the self-doubt, it's there. And I think just even recognizing it will always be there. And if it's not there, either you don't care enough, or you're not going to grow, like you're not growing enough. So for me, that's how I look at it. Okay. If there's self-doubt, it just means that it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because it's probably something I haven't done before. But if it's something I haven't done before, then there's an opportunity to learn something new and grow, and you learn every day. And it's interesting because over time I've seen, like, we have this like milestone. Okay, when we get to the 10K in monthly recurring revenue, as a tech company, like this is going to be great. We got there. And then it's like, that's not enough, right? What's the next thing? Okay, now I need to reach out to these like big companies. We actually just partnered with Microsoft in Atlanta, which is amazing. We're beyond the pilot. We're going to be announcing it soon. You didn't hear it today, just saying. But it's just like, just getting to the next one. It's like, it's so uncomfortable to ask for that contract, to ask for whatever it is that you need. But I just think that self-doubt is there every day, but it also is probably an indication that there's an opportunity to grow. So I just kind of just go back to that. Okay, look at every time I had self-doubt and how much I've accomplished. I've been through so much in my life in general that I can look at any use case or a case study from before and just, I've done it before. This is just uncomfortable. It's a good opportunity to grow, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I love that. And
Things
Amy
work
in the chat
out.
says, yeah, I love that. And Amy in the chat says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think
Absolutely.
that's really, really important. There's no growth in the comfort zone. I really loved what you had said there.
Yeah.